So the Dallas Cowboys have publicly discussed making a trade, and there is one big name that makes plenty of sense. Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Mauricio Rodrigues here at A to Z Sports Dallas. I know we are talking about the Cowboys in general just being super conservative when it comes to team building. At least we've done so the last few days. But there's one thing that I have hope that they will be selectively aggressive on, and that is making a trade for a player that will actually make an impact in 2025. The reason why I say that is we've had several instances where Jerry and Stephen Jones are talking to the media, and at least once or twice each of these guys has said, listen, we could trade for somebody. And that's interesting. The fact that they're mentioning the possibility of a trade. And even on Wednesday, after the Zach Martin retirement press conference, it came up again. So you look at what the Cowboys did a couple years ago when they gave up a 5th rounder and a 6th rounder to get Stephon Gilmore and Brandon Cooks. That was quality team building, right? Credit where credit is due. That's what you want from the Cowboys. You want them to go seek some talent before we get to April and the NFL draft. So the whole thing about this show will be, is there a name out there that makes sense for the Cowboys to cover a big time need? And I think there is at least one. And as I discuss like all of these needs for the Cowboys, there's one that makes sense to me in the trade market. Because sure, you need some offensive line depth, and you could use a linebacker, and you could use a cornerback. But the one position that really comes up to like sticks out of the page, I think it's wide receiver. And DK Metcalf, available for trade, might make more sense than we think. Now, shout out to Shane Carter, all right? My guy Shane Carter tweeted out, for what it's worth, not only does DK Metcalf have a connection with the Dallas Cowboys head coach Brian Schottenheimer, having coached him for 2 years in Seattle, but Metcalf and wide receiver CeeDee Lamb are both represented by the same agent, Tory Dandy. Now, that's an interesting connection that Shane is making there, and it's noteworthy for sure. That's not the only reason why I think the pairing between Metcalf and the Cowboys would make sense, though. Metcalf might not be as expensive as he thinks he will be in this offseason. And Diana Rossini from The Athletic tweeted out that the Seahawks might want a 1st rounder and a 3rd rounder. And on top of that, Metcalf is seeking a $30 million contract. I'm not buying that he's going to get that. I'm not buying that the Seahawks are going to get that either. Jacina Anderson from CVS reported that there's at least one NFL team that is willing to offer the Seahawks a 3rd rounder. That doesn't necessarily mean that's the minimum price tag, because if they're not willing to give Metcalf a extension, then the trade might not happen at all anyways. But I could see a scenario where Metcalf's price ends up dropping, and then it could make sense for the Cowboys to give up even a 3rd round pick. Now, it would be an aggressive move, and it would be somewhat uncharacteristic from the Cowboys. But if inside that building they feel like McMillan might not make it to number 12 in the NFL draft, and they start getting real worried about their wide receiver situation, could they give up a 3rd rounder to give CeeDee Lamb someone to work with? Maybe it might be a little bit far-fetched, but in theory, it makes sense. Football-wise, it makes sense. And if we were talking about a competent front office, then it would make plenty of sense. As long as Metcalf's insane $30 million demands are not as set in stone, because I don't think he's going to get that. Again, I insist. Now, granted, we are talking about the same team that once it had Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, they just said goodbye to Amari, and then later got rid of Michael Gallup because the deal was just so bad. So I know this is not exactly the team that we should be believing in to really drop 2 backs at the wide receiver position. But again, it's kind of a smart move, and I hope that the Cowboys will consider it, because it is one of the easiest ways to improve this football team in 2025.